I tried to base my free kick on Ronaldo, hit the ball by the valve and it moves. So what do you do? Top corner, top bins.
Although the recent history of Chelsea Football Club has seen the club endure ups and downs, there has been one perhaps surprising thread of consistency across those seasons. Since his breakthrough into the starting 11 at the beginning of the 2019-20 season, Mason Mount has become something of a permanent fixture for Chelsea. From that point onwards, Mount has become a mainstay of the team under all three managers who've been in charge at Stamford Bridge during his time at the club. But in spite of this, there are still people who question what it is that Mason Mount actually does.
Where he takes his top off, that's about as edgy as Mason gets. He doesn't do too many triple step overs and flicks over the back of his head in areas that he shouldn't do. He makes really efficient, clean, sharp passes. He presses as well as any midfield player that I've worked with or played alongside, and does 100 things within his game that impress the managers that he works for. So I think it's very easy and casual because he hasn't got an Instagram reel of those kind of flicks, and it's different type of football. I think it's easy that people can bracket him off.
Ever since Mason Mount became a fixture of the Chelsea starting 11 under Frank Lampard, he's been one of the first names on the team sheet regardless of the manager. In every season under Lampard and Thomas Tuchel, Mount picked up over 30 Premier League appearances, and since Graham Potter arrived, he's started every available league fixture. So what is it about Mount that makes him so popular with his managers?
Since his return to Chelsea in 2019, Mason Mount has been one of the most talked about players at Stamford Bridge. Having formed a strong connection with Frank Lampard at Derby, the Blues Academy graduate was almost ever present during the 1920 season, with his manager choosing to play him more than any other player in the league. He also quickly gained the trust of England boss Gareth Southgate, featuring in all but one of the 11 matches his country has played since making his debut in September 2019, starting the last 5. But this faith hasn't always been reflected by the fans. Throughout last season, Chelsea supporters questioned Lampard's insistence on playing him every week, while more recently, fans of the Three Lions aimed their frustration over Jack Grealish's relative lack of game time firmly at Mount, reasoning that favouritism was blocking the Aston Villa captain's entry into the first team. Sadly, but perhaps not surprisingly, given the nature of online fan culture, these frustrations have also manifested in abuse on social media, with the youngster often scapegoated for poor Chelsea results, even following games in which he himself has played well.
Well, in a word, flexibility. In Lampard's Chelsea, Mount played as a left-sided midfielder in a 3 or as a number 10 when a 4-2-3-1 formation was deployed. Under Tuchel, who preferred a 3-4-3 structure, Mount played as one of the wide players in the front 3. Although Tuchel liked his wide forwards to stay narrow, with Mount often dropping deep to pick up the ball. He also famously used Mount as a narrow 10 in a 4-2-2-2 and as an outside midfielder in a 3, as part of a 3-5-2 in games against Tottenham. Graham Potter is famously partial to non-standard structures, and so far we've seen Mount play as a wide forward on either side of a front 3 in a 3-4-3, as an outside midfielder and as a 10 in a 4-4-2 diamond, and on both sides of a midfield 3 as well. This sort of flexibility is fundamental to coaches like Tuchel or Potter, who like to make tactical tweaks within games to solve problems set by the opposition. But it doesn't arrive out of nowhere. Mount's profile as a footballer lends itself to flexibility both in terms of what he does in and out of possession of the ball. Mount's technical ability and athleticism allow him to possess the ball in tighter spaces, deeper in the field, but those qualities also enable him to move the ball into more dangerous areas on the pitch where he's able to operate as a more creative force. He carries the ball well at speed and through traffic, and he has a sharp eye for a through ball. He's also a dangerous goal scorer, producing 24 Premier League goals from his 3 full seasons. Combined, these virtues mean that he can function in many different areas of the pitch, contributing to his flexibility in possession. But out of possession, he's also an asset to his team. Once again, Mount's athleticism and mobility make him a dangerous proposition. He's an intense presser, but he also presses well, both of which have made him an important cog for his managers at Chelsea. There's an off-the-ball intelligence which also adds to his skill set defensively. He understands what's expected of him, and he can move between roles in a pressing system at a moment's notice. Add these 2 facets of his game together, and you have what every manager wants in a player. Great on-ball technique, which you can use to progress the ball down the field, and to be creative when you get to the final third, and a player who is both functional and intelligent out of possession, who will allow you to control a game without the ball.
I certainly don't. And when I say that, I don't want to add fuel to the fire of him being my son, because I've just been so positive about him. Because I know Mason has got a lot to improve on, and then that's what takes you on to his attitude and his desire to improve. He can score more goals, he can make more assists, but he's a quality football player who's only going to get better, and that's how I feel about him. But make no mistake, Mason Mount or any player in this squad will not be getting any form of favouritism from me about playing the position when there is competition in this squad. We need to have a driven competition amongst everybody in the squad, and midfield areas I've got options, in wide areas now we have options where we had injuries earlier in the season, so it's competitive for everybody, and nobody gets the edge from me.
I've got to say, regardless of what happens, Mason's had a great season. You must be so proud.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Yeah, he has had a really good season, and yeah, I'm very proud. Been proud for lots of reasons, and on the field and off the field, and yeah, we're very lucky.
Tony, development has been great, isn't it? And I think a lot of credit must go to Frank Lampard as well, because I'm sure Mason looked up to Frank as a top midfielder himself in Chelsea's team back in the day when it was really successful, and he's really helped his journey where he's got to today, really.
Without a doubt, Ray. Massive credit to Frank. I mean, the amount of time he spent with Mason one-on-one after training, just things he would say to him, just things he would add to his game. But we knew that, Mason had the chance to go to play in Germany in the Bundesliga, and we flew out there and we met a couple of clubs, and I was very impressed. We came back and Mason got a call, and next thing we were in London meeting with Frank and Jody, and as soon as we met with them and we came out that meeting, I knew Mason wanted to play for him, and he said, I want to sign for Derby, and I said, why? It's a really grueling, tough league championship, and he said, I want it. It'll add to my game, but more importantly, I'll learn from Frank Lampard every day.
Brilliant.
Nobody better to learn from.
And 53 appearances this year. I mean, that is some going. I always look at that Chelsea team now and say Mason Mount is one of the first on the team sheet, which is unbelievable for a young man. He must be, as I said, as Alan said, you must be very proud that he's a massive part of that Chelsea team, and probably for me, the most important player.
Well, yeah, thank you. I think Mason's a very fit boy, and I think mentally strong as well. And you need both. It's not just about the physical side, it's the mental side, and it's been a grueling season. It's been a really unusual season and been very challenging. But yeah, he's risen to challenges. He's risen to levels, and after Frank departed and Thomas Tuchel come in, it's another start for him. And I've been very proud of the way he's dealt with it, handled it, and the development's continued.
Just wanted to ask you as well about Mason Mount. If you look at social media, you can get fooled into thinking that he's not a good player. You know him better than probably most footballers in the world. So what are people missing with him?
Look, I don't need to talk too much about Mace. I think he probably just doesn't fit me speaking honestly, he doesn't fit the agenda of what people want an attacking midfielder to look like this day and age. He's one of the best players I've played with. I'm not just saying that because he's my best mate, but if you see the way he helps the team, I think that's why Gareth's so keen on him and picks him all the time. Not only with the ball, his quality, which he shows in abundance for England and Chelsea. The way he is off the ball, you don't see many number 10 to have that together. And I think he's just such a team player, such a hard-working, honest guy. And sometimes, fans, people online, social media, they just don't like him. For what reason, I don't honestly know. But look, his numbers for Chelsea are incredible. He's obviously won the Champions League, won the Super Cup at such a young age. And for the rest of his career, he can go on and be whatever he wants to be. And I know he doesn't let that noise get to him. So, look, let Mace go and do his thing. When he's doing that, it makes me happy seeing, my good friend, go and perform at the best level.
West Ham.
What does Mason Mount